All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another Harbor CNCF meeting. This is the second meeting of the day. We already had the Harbor Asia Pacific time zone meeting earlier today. So I know that we don't have a ton of attendance on this call since we had almost 25 people on our earlier call, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and meet with us and chat about Harbor in general. So let's get started here. So our agenda for today is we'll talk a little bit about the Harbor version 1.9 plan. We'll talk about the 4 or 5 big commitments and a couple of smaller ones that we're trying to first cost, and second, trying to kind of slot into the 1.9 release. So we'll make some community updates, and then it's open for discussion later on. This is the same agenda that we're using for the Asia Pacific time zone as well. So starting a little bit with the 1.9 plan. So if you go to this link, and these slides are available on our community section as well, you will see, okay, it wants to verify things, but I can open it here. You will find the project board for Harbor. And at the high level, Nathan is already aware of some of these items since he was participating in the maintainer track that we had, where we kind of discussed our big investments, made sure that everybody was aligned with them, as well as made a couple of calls to action so that folks that have bandwidth and resources available are able to come in and contribute. Obviously, the same call goes here as well. If anybody is interested and has time to come in and help us, please feel free. So I'm going to go through some of the swim lane is called 1.9 commitment proposal. The reason why it's still a proposal is because we're adding t-shirt cost sizing for each item. And then based on that, we'll figure out how many of them we can realistically tackle in the 1.9 timeframe. We're trying to ship 1.9 before the end of August so that we can have a secondary release before KubeCon US in San Diego in November. So that gives us 2 relatively short releases under 3 months. I think it's doable. I think it's going to allow us to innovate at a much faster pace. But also the side effect is that we cannot make huge investments. We have to take them small by small chunk size. So the first one is the ability to implement quotas per project. That's something that Nate does feel strongly about, and we'll kind of use his guidance and expertise on this project as well. And that's basically giving you the ability to do a couple of things. We'll start simple. We'll start with giving you the ability to limit the number of images and tags in a single project. So it's just a straight number. You say, I can only have 10 images here. Once that limit is reached, unless someone deletes an image, you cannot upload another one. And the second one is the ability to limit a project on a per size. And we're going to make that size calculation very simple in V1. It's going to be the total virtual size of all your images and your repositories. So that means that if you have a single image that's sharing some of its layers on another image, they're going to get double counted. I know that's not ideal, but it's the simplest and easiest way for us to portray this number right now. It will allow people that use Harbor as a content provider to be able to leverage these limits so that no single project runs away from them without any guardrails. And later down the road, we'll be able to enhance that work and say, if you want the true physical on-disk size that the single project is occupying, we'll be able to do that as well. But that is out of scope of version 1. Along with that, and I'll open it up for questions, a very complementary feature is the retention policy. So being able to add a retention policy for images is going to be very important. And that retention policy is going to give us a couple of things. How many days old images do you want to keep? How many tags per repository do you want to keep? So it's not only a date driven, but also number driven. But then you might have to put some exceptions to these policies. So for example, don't delete the last remaining image, or don't exclude from policies images with certain labels, like for example, your production images. So if you have a production image, you can attach that label to it, and that can be excluded from the retention policy. So those are some things that will allow an operator or an administrator of a project to limit, if they have a CI/CD process that creates an image every day or multiple per day, you don't want to keep them all. You want to keep the ones that matter the most, the ones that you tagged properly, and then this feature will allow it. One other thing that goes very well with that is the ability to bring import labels from Dockerfile. So if you're building your images using your own CI/CD policies, and you're creating metadata on the images in the form of labels, today Harbor completely discards those. So we're going to be able to import them now, and you'll be able to attach policy to that. Policy like the policies I mentioned earlier around retention and policies around replication. All of those policies will be able to be used as part of this label importing. Any questions so far on the first three? All right, cool. Moving on. Excuse me. The next one is, and this is going to be a huge work item. I don't know if we're going to be able to fix it in one single release, but our goal is to continue making progress on it. Today, we're a repository of cloud-native artifacts like container images and home charts, but nothing else. We want to expand the concept of Harbor to include all the cloud-native artifacts. That could include things like scripts. Very importantly, the CNAB bundles, the Cloud Native Application Bundle, which is a new project that's getting a lot of steam in the Cloud Native community, and it allows you to portray a distributed app in configuration files. We want to be able to support that. And then also operators are becoming a big thing in Kubernetes, so we want to be able to become the repository for operators as well. Now, in order to be able to do all that work, it's going to require us to make some changes. Today we support Docker client, we support the Helm client, but now we're going to need to support a different type of client to be able to support these additional artifacts. So think about along the lines of, can we go down the path of the OCI registry, and would that allow us to support these images? What if we supported a Git server? So you can use any Git client available to be able to pull any images down, and then you just basically became an FTP server for those images. Now, the advantage of Harbor is not only can you store all these images, but you can enforce our policy. Replication will work. Retention policies will work. RBAC and authorization will work. Login will work. OIDC support will work. So all of these other policies that you have in Harbor will work perfectly with this work. The only thing you wouldn't get is maybe static analysis coming with Claire. But everything else will work. And as a developer of cloud native apps, all the resources that you have and that you need for your apps to be able to be deployed in production will be available and hosted in Harbor and have a single place to go look for them. Any questions on this? All right, moving on. The application working group would like to continue making some improvements to the application. Think about along the lines of adding more replication targets. So today we support Docker Hub, we support Docker Registry, we support Huawei Cloud Registry. We want to add support for additional registries, maybe AWS, Azure, GCP registry, maybe some other on-prem registries as well. This is not going to be a lot of work because most of these other registries are Docker client compliant. So it might work fairly well for us, but we need to test it. We need to implement the providers, and we need to make sure this all works. Webhooks was a story that we initially were targeting for 1.8. It ended up not making it in. So now we're going to revamp that work and add support for webhooks in 1.9. Alex Zhu, one of the new members of our Harbor community, is actually cataloging a list of all the supported webhooks that we're going to have with this story. And once we have that, we'll publish that to the community, request feedback, and then we'll continue executing on this story. The next item is whitelist CVEs. So this is something that came up a couple of times so far by different customers and users. And I think that there's a lot of need for us to be able to define a global list of CVEs that you can exclude from policy. So for example, today, if you set up a policy that says, in my project, if I have a high severity CVE, do not allow an image to be pulled. But that's a black and white policy. What happens if a CVE came out, but there's no remediation for it yet? You want to prevent your image from getting pulled in production? The answer is maybe not yet. So an alternative is you add it to a whitelist for a short period of time, allow production images to still be pulled, and then later on, when you have a fix for the vulnerability, you can patch your images and enforce back the original security static analysis policy. And that's it. That was the last item that we're trying to tackle. Like I mentioned, it's a small release. So I think even these 5 or 6 items may be too much for a single 3-month release, but we will cost them, we'll slot them in and start working on them immediately. There's a couple of other process item things that we're trying to look for 1.9, things like the security disclosure process and penetration and securities testing by third party. I am working with CNCF on those. So we'll be able to, at least initially, make Harbor a better product, more security constrained, and maybe figure out better ways to harden production deployments. Any questions on all these items?
No, they look good.
Thank you. All right, moving back to the slides. KubeCon EU was in Barcelona a few days ago. We released Harbor 1.8 there, so congrats to the folks that contributed there. Nate, I know you're a co-maintainer, so congrats to you on this. So it was an excellent release. It was very well received. We had the community reception on May 20th. We had approximately 35 folks there, all of them very interested in Harbor. We've gotten tremendous feedback on Harbor, both at our 2 sessions, the intro and the deep dive. We presented there where we were, where we're going, and some of the new features that we have, including some demos. Folks were lining up after our talks to talk to us and bring their own perspective into Harbor. We've had a lot of folks ask us for new features. Some of them are in our roadmap and into the project file that I mentioned. So it was very good to be able to tell someone that, hey, what you're asking for, we already have it, and we might even release it in the next 3 months. So overall, very well received. Harbor is gaining a lot of mind share within the cloud native community. And I think we're going to ride that momentum into our next couple of releases and eventually getting graduated in CNCF. So go from incubating to graduated. Took a picture with Joe Beda. I don't know why I'm not in the picture. Maybe I was talking to someone when these guys all took it, but you know, Joe was there. He as a Kubernetes co-founder, he kind of talked at the beginning, kind of kickstarted the community reception and talked about his view of the world and how Harbor plays a key role there. So it was very empowering to see Joe kind of validate and solidify our ideas about how to take Harbor and continue advancing our vision. I don't think there's anybody on this call that's not aware of the 1.8 features, so I probably don't need to go through them. If you guys do want me to, I can, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to say, I've heard this before.
Yeah, I'm good without it.
All right, cool.
Ditto.
Excellent. So, all right, so we have a couple of pictures here. You know, these are the session. Yeah, I think this was the intro session. So look at the bottom right picture. That's when our session was over. Look how many people were around us. And the line just did not let out. So we had to be kicked out of the room eventually. So tremendous amount of interest in Harbor. I think there's a lot of folks that are paying a lot of money to some of our competing products. So we have a very unique opportunity here to, as a CNCF project, to offer a truly foundational experience around registry and image management. All right, and you can view the sessions online if you want. So there's the intro and the deep dive session are available on YouTube. We also participate in the CNCF answer bar. This is a place where maintainers of different projects can sit there for office hours for a few hours every day, and folks we just come in there and kind of talk about some of the use cases and needs. Henry took a picture with a Harbor user from Turkey. So if you notice, Henry was very key at identifying people that were interested in Harbor, taking some pictures of them, and continue promoting our agenda. And that's it. That's all the slides from KubeCon Europe. KubeCon Shanghai is late June. We will have a community reception for Harbor again, where Dragonfly, Harbor, and TIKV are going to present. Some of them, like Dragonfly, does have a demo as well. They're going to demonstrate the P2P solution. We'll have some lightning talks and some sessions as well. So I think it's going to be continuing the momentum of KubeCon EU in Shanghai, and then and that's going to propel us for our 1.9 release as well. That's it. Anything that anybody wants to bring up? And I know, Nate, I owe you, I know you pinged me on the CNCF Slack for the detention policies. I will reply back. I was traveling. I'm done now. I should be able to get back to you by tomorrow.
Sure, no worries. Actually, I had a related question. So I was looking into some of the database persistence stuff.
Okay.
Are the database migrations auto-generated by the ORM, or are you guys hand-rolling migrations? Because I tried to run some tests, and it complained with an error saying it was looking for like migration scripts.
I believe we generate those manually.
Okay.
Do you mind asking that in the Harbor maintainers chat though? To verify
I asked it in
that?
Harbor Dev, but I'll copy it into Harbor Maintainer.
Yeah, copying Harbor maintainers, that way Steven Zhao can reply, but I'm pretty sure that those are manually. I don't remember seeing an ORM when I scoured a little bit the code.
Okay.
It would be nice if it's ORM. I think the problem there is that we started with a different database, and when we moved to Postgres, I don't think an ORM was created. I don't know if you were working with Harbor when we're supporting MySQL. I certainly was not.
All right.
Cool. All right. That's it. And Stephen, I know that you and I talked a little about some of these IoT and edge scenarios.
Right. If you're available, the next meeting for that working group is 2 weeks from today.
Can you send me an invite? I'll try to attend.
Sure. And I brought it up. We have meetings every 2 weeks. The China one was last week. And they definitely would like a presentation geared towards running Harbor instances on-prem at edge locations. Yeah,
so I won't be able to have a presentation just yet, maybe a discussion first. I've asked the team as a result, that's something that was on my mind already for edge scenarios. So I had asked it before you and I even chatted, but they haven't had time yet to do a validation. So what I asked the team to do was, can you deploy Harbor at 2 distributed locations and use some networking tool to increase the latency, start dropping packets, and decrease the reliability, and see how well it does.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could still open with a generic presentation on Harbor in general.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
And then we can go into just indicating what potential issues are, and maybe even reaching out for people to help with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that it's, with branch scenarios and this compute being pushed down to the edge, whether that's for telecom or retail or manufacturing, I think there's going to be a big need for images that are being out there at the edge, and our replication capabilities in Harbor are getting better and better at that. So I think we have a unique position here to actually go and make those edge case scenarios and IoT as a reality.
I mean, pretty clearly now, if you run at the edge, you have to anticipate being disconnected. So I think even a flawed registry is better than no registry. So
yeah, so absolutely. And the other thing, by the way, is we are trying to see if we can make it easier to update Claire offline, so that if you are in an air-gapped environment or an environment with such high latency that that's not possible for you, we're trying to look into that as well. So we have a process today, but it's clunky. So maybe we can make this better. So that's another thing we're looking at.
Okay, I'll get you an invite for that within the next 24 hours.
Excellent, thank you.
And then are you going to Shanghai? Am I going to see you there? No?
One of the PMs that works for me will be there, Alex Zhu.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going myself, so I'm looking
I don't,
forward to the event.
it just didn't work out the travel for me. Otherwise, I would have gone. But maybe next time.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for attending. We're a short group today, but all of these meetings are recorded, so folks are able to view them offline. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Really appreciate
Okay.
your time.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.